Ditch this and tell me something that the black community needs to hear, like ASAP.
This message is specifically for Black women who were raised in single parent households. Just because your mom did everything in her power to make sure you had a better life doesn't mean you have to disregard how you feel when she hurts you. Loyalty can be destructive when you have to constantly disregard how you feel. Feeling guilty about having negative feelings towards your parents because they did everything for you is not healthy. It's okay to establish healthy boundaries and to communicate with your parents why you're hurt when you're hurt. A healthy relationship between a parent and a child should be a two-way street. This idea of having to be completely loyal and doing everything for your parents just because they were single and they had to raise you on their own is not a healthy dynamic. If you're watching this and you can relate, consider this your personal invitation to recreate the relationship you have with your parents.
Ditch this and tell me something that the black community needs to hear, like ASAP.
This is your average everyday hood gas station. They are extremely dangerous with robberies and shootings, and they're very unclean. But for some reason, the owners, who are not black, continue to build them in our communities. They continue to open them in our communities, and they continue to come back regardless of the violence. Do you know why? It's because these things are extremely lucrative. That's why. So, black community, what we need to hear is we need to own more of those, because hardly any of those are owned by
Ditch
us.
this and tell me something that the black community needs to hear, like ASAP.
I'll tell you one thing that the black community needs to hear. Stop dying and leaving nothing for your family. How about that? It's long overdue for us to start waking up and saying, hey, let me leave a legacy for my family. Let me leave something for my children. Let me leave something for generations to come. How about we stop dying and leaving nothing? And how about, while we're alive, stop having this mentality that I don't really need to give a damn about my family when I'm gone because I'm gone. That is the most idiotic thing I've ever heard in my life. How would you, especially somebody that has children, has a spouse, has a house, has responsibility, how is it that you could say, hey, I don't care about anybody that's left behind, even though they depended on me? That is the most insane thought process ever. So, yeah, how about we stop dying and leaving nothing for our families?
Ditch this and tell me something that the black community needs to hear, like ASAP.
Black people need to stop talking about black-owned businesses as if they're the only people that have bad customer service when we're still shopping at other businesses that don't give a damn about us. When we still get our nails and toes done by Koreans and Vietnamese individuals who speak badly about us in their native language, who are anti-black most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time, especially in beauty supply stores or anything else that has to do with beauty and cosmetics for the black community. We need to stop down the black-owned clothing lines with multiple different designer clothing lines. Use our trauma and our history to sell and make money. Ironically, we don't turn our back or boycott these clothing lines and major corporations, even though they treat us like pieces of shit, but have the audacity to sit and bash other black-owned business owners for shit that we've been going through and enduring for a long period of time. Now, this does not condone black customer service on black business owners' ends, but we can't sit and be hypocrites.
Ditch this and tell me something that the black community needs to hear.
We need to stop worrying about the following words: feminine, masculine, alpha, beta, and for God's sake, submission. We need to go to therapy and figure out our issues, heal this generational trauma so that we can have healthy relationships. We need to stop worrying about who's submitting to who and who's being in their feminine energy and their masculine energy. And we need to work on ourselves so we don't repeat the things that we learned from our parents and that they learned from their parents and all the shit that we've been through in our
Ditch this
past.
and tell me something that the black community needs to hear, like ASAP.
The giving black men microphones and a platform needs to stop. I'm going to repeat that. The giving black men microphones and a platform needs to be cut. Podcasts, preachers, whatever it is, it needs to end because hearing y'all speak with your opinions on a platform where no one's going to tell you to stop talking has gotten out of hand. Out of hand.
Ditch this and tell me something that the black community needs to hear, like ASAP.
You don't know what you're talking about when you say voting doesn't work. Half of y'all on here who rail against voting have only voted like once every 4 years and didn't start voting until 2008. Unless you have participated in every single election, I'm talking about local, state, and then federal, you have no right to talk about the effectiveness of voting. You're not a reliable source. And this especially goes out to black men. Look at the stats, look at the turnout. Men lie, women lie, numbers don't. So unless y'all want the Republicans to take the House back in November and then give Donald Trump Nancy Pelosi's job, yes, it could happen. Yes, it's a real possibility. Google it. Do not argue with me. Then I suggest y'all get out there and help the groups in your communities who are trying to mobilize the vote. And you vote.
Ditch this and tell me something that the black community needs to hear, like ASAP.
Listen, there are far too many baby showers in the black community compared to weddings. Is it easier for some people to lay down and have a child together as opposed to getting married to each other? Comment below and let me know what you guys think.
Ditch this and tell me something that the black community needs to hear.
Black women have been going natural for quite a few years to embrace their hair. But are we really embracing? Unfortunately, that European standard of beauty is still there. The looser the hair texture, the more prettier. Well, I would go natural, but you know, girl, I got that can't you don't you hair. You know, it don't wave up. This type of mindset is holding us back. For many years, we've been conditioned to believe the kinkier the hair is, the more untamable it is. And we have passed down this mindset to our children. It doesn't make any sense at all for a child to be walking around with no edges at 10 years old, let alone an adult, due to pulling and tugging. And we've gone as far as heat training our hair to give the appearance of a looser texture. We have come a long way, but we still have a ways to go.
Ditch this and tell me something that the black community needs to hear.
Alright, well, we need to embrace deaf black people more and celebrate them. I read an article about this a few days ago, so I really want to share some of this with you guys. To put this in perspective so you guys can think about it, within 2 or 3 generations, we have had 14 deaf black Americans with PhDs, 1 deaf lawyer, and some well-known deaf black academics that should be celebrated, and 4 or 5 deaf well-known actors. The reason why I'm putting that out there is because I'm sure a lot of you guys don't know that. Not only we should celebrate and recognize those things, we should do a better job at just embracing deaf black people as a whole. For a long time, we felt ignored, and that should change. Diversity shouldn't be a burden. It should be our strength.
Ditch this and tell me something that the black community needs to hear, like ASAP.
Where do I even start? Is there even enough space on TikTok? The glorification of white and white acceptance, the trash education system, all our fucking trauma and how we refuse to look at it, or the healing process that we need, the battle of the sexist bullshit, the fact that our elders were absolutely wrong, and they still don't want to admit it. How turning spiritualism into your new Christianity won't save you, the effects of poverty and how it decays the character. Or maybe we can start with how we need to stop having our collective community conversations on the internet.
Ditch this and tell me something that the black community needs to hear, like ASAP.
Black people, specifically black women who like nice things and can afford nice things or have standards and requirements, are not bougie for having said standards and requirements or being able to afford the nice things that they like. We're just people who like nice things and can afford them.
Ditch this and tell me something that the black community needs to hear, like ASAP.
That the black church been pimping us for years. It's not that many gifts going around. It's all theatrics, and we need to quit that like
Ditch
ASAP.
this and tell me something that the black community needs to hear, like ASAP.
That I think it's time for us to have a serious reevaluation about our relationship with comedy and humor. Let's talk about it. Now, let me start off by saying that I love that we're able to find the humor in anything. And I think that we're one of the funniest groups of people on this planet. But there's a good side and a bad side to being able to find the humor in everything. And what ends up happening is that for a lot of us, we end up creating humor at the expense of our own people. And we'll go to really great lengths just to make somebody laugh. Like some of us will literally pick on size, mental health, and disabilities just for a quick little laugh. And we'll try to find ways to laugh at our pain to get out of having to deal with it. I recently saw a video of this older black man pretending to spank this young black girl by spanking the floor next to her, and she was terrified, but everyone else in the room was dying laughing, as if they were finding humor and traumatizing her. And I don't know, I think it would be really good for us to kind of take a step back and assess what we find funny and why.